Hello and welcome to Buck the Trend. I'm Steph Clutterbuck.
And I'm Matt Nartive. Thanks for that introduction this week, Steph.
We did spend probably way too long deciding who was going to introduce it.
Thought I'd give it to Steph this week. I think I've done the last few.
You really enjoy it. I think it's a highlight of your week.
We're able to jump back in now.
Yeah, we're going to restart and Matt's going to introduce it.
Yeah. So anyway, episode 25, quarter of a century. We said last week we were one away. We've made it.
We have made it, and we've made it with big news.
Yes. So we've got a final diagnosis now on your side, Steph. Do you want to kick us off and let's jump into that before we get into anything too exciting?
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, anything too exciting. This is literally my entire life at the moment, so I'm finding it very exciting. We have obviously spent the last 7 weeks getting a multitude of tests to try and understand what's been going on. And we actually kind of got an inclination a couple of weeks ago of what the underlying issue was, but we needed to wait for cardiac MRI to come back because there were some question marks over my heart activity.
And let's be honest, that was probably the main focal point we were most worried about.
Yeah, so this is it. It was the changes to my heart that gave me the symptoms that got us to get things checked out.
Yeah.
And that came back. So first up, what they found was there is evidence of myocarditis on my heart, just a little bit. And it's currently not active, which means that it was there, but the rest has meant that the inflammation has chilled out and isn't I guess it's like when you tear a muscle. It's not torn anymore, but there's scarring there that demonstrates that it was.
Yeah, and just to clarify, because I didn't actually know, myocarditis is inflammation of the heart muscle.
Yes, so the myocardium, which is the muscle around the heart. You also have pericarditis, which is the fluid that sits outside of the muscle. And they kind of go hand in hand. So quite typically, if you have myocarditis, you have pericarditis, but it's much harder to test for that. And pericarditis, my understanding is pericarditis is what causes a lot of the pain. But the scarring sits in the longer term effects sit in the myocardium. So yeah, if you've got one, you tend to have the other. But mine was found in the myocardium.
But we're not experts, so...
No, this is basically just what has been explained to me and how my brain has interpreted it. So yeah, I am no longer experiencing chest pain. And I haven't done for a month or 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 2 weeks. Something like that. It feels like a lifetime, which is great.
Kind of lost track of days.
Yeah, I've lost track of days. Now that I'm not training, I don't know what day of the week it is. And went to see the cardiologist on Monday, and I have officially been signed off to return to exercise. Now, it doesn't mean I can just start training normally again. So from the moment of my last symptom of chest pain, which, was 2 weeks ago, you need 6 weeks where you are in a risk bracket. And that risk is for abnormal heart activity. I'm low risk, but it's still a risk. So I've got another 4 weeks where I can only do easy training. And that easy is looking at around 60% of max heart rate. So we're kind of in the ballpark of, for me, 140 beats per minute, which is annoying. It's an annoying number for me because my heart, as we'll go on to in a minute, my heart rate is quite high anyway. So 140 is near on impossible for me to hit because it always sits a little bit higher than that. And there are reasons for it, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, and weirdly, because like I say, you've got quite a low resting heart rate, and when you're walking, it's, I don't know, usually 80 towards 100-ish, and then you don't really have much of that middle ground of 110, 20. You seem to go straight to sort of 140.
Yeah, and we're kind of starting to get an understanding of why that is as well. So, return to exercise for myocarditis, 4 weeks easy. Then I'm allowed to do a little bit of like tempo work that will take us through to the beginning of September. I then get another scan, cardiac MRI scan, to check that the inflammation has gone, which hopefully it will have done if I'm not having any more chest pain. And then we can kind of proceed as normal, basically. And that will be, so it's another 2 and a bit months until we're back to normal. However, the working theory currently is that I have had a virus at some point. The myocarditis suggests that I had a virus around April, May time. So just probably coming off the back of Texas. But given all of my symptoms, it is likely that I have had a virus that has gone after my heart and my nervous system at some point in the last couple of years, because it has changed a lot of how my body is working. So the secondary diagnosis that basically explains everything, including, I guess, maybe a bit of the heart vulnerability, is something called postural tachycardia syndrome.
Also known as POTS.
And I will be referring to it as POTS from this moment onwards because it's a really big mouthful.
It's a bit of a tongue twister.
POTS is an autonomic nervous system disorder, and the autonomic nervous system is the kind of part of your body that controls all of your basic reflexes. So heart, breathing, body temperature control, sweat rate, blood pressure, your eyes' ability to keep themselves moist. Like, the list goes on. It's all the stuff that you don't think about and you have no control over is looked after by the autonomic nervous system. People with POTS, and there are a couple of other autonomic nervous system disorders, but for me specifically with POTS, they're all just not quite working properly. So none of them are not working, but they're all just not quite working as they should. And obviously as an athlete, you can really feel when you're like 1% off. There is a suggestion that it might be a bit more than 1% off, but for me, the diagnosis, we have had questions over how was I diagnosed. The nervous system disorders is basically a case of ruling out everything else. So that's why we had to wait for the cardiac MRI to check to see whether that was going to explain all of my symptoms or not. And it didn't. It kind of highlighted one thing. So we've gone to see a specialist. He's asked me a whole multitude of questions about things that I didn't even know were things, about how my body works. And the one thing that explained all of them was POTS. And it was also things like, how much control do I have over my stomach? Is it sensitive when I run? Which is like, obviously the answer is yes. It's always a bit of an issue for me. Combine that with my inability to tolerate heat, but also my inability to tolerate cold. Like, I just don't exist in the extremes. I can't cool myself down. I can't heat myself up again. I need external help for that. A heart rate that's increasing year on year instead of decreasing, and an increasing intolerance towards exercise, as well as like this crippling fatigue that I've been experiencing more and more frequently over the last like 18 months. That has been the outcome of the diagnosis. So it's not like you can do a test. There is a test to determine which nervous system disorder you've got, and it's called a tilt test. I haven't had to do that because the other test that you can do is you take your resting heart rate when you're sitting, and then you stand up, and you see what your heart rate does. So for me and those with POTS, my heart rate increases by more than like 40 beats. So I have a resting heart rate of 40. When I stand up, it will go up to like 100 plus, and it won't drop.
Yeah, I think the thing is everybody's heart rate will go up as they stand. It will stay elevated for, I don't know, a 10-minute period, for instance.
Mine basically is indefinite. So my resting heart rate when I'm standing is like 105. It doesn't ever drop lower than that. It will drop when I start like moving, but if I just stand up and I'm standing doing nothing, it's really high. So basically the like context of all of this with exercise is my heart rate is always a little bit higher than it should be because my body is always under a little bit more stress than it should be. And you take that at rest and it means that I'm never really recovering properly. But then you put that in top end exercise, and it means that anything that stresses my body is having an exponentially larger stress on my body than we anticipated. And then I'm never recovering properly either. So the periods of fatigue are coming when we're doing more intense exercise and I'm having this enormous load that I didn't really realise and haven't accounted for, and then I don't get to recover from it. And then we get up and go again the next day. And that's not that I'm not doing good recovery things, like I'm recovering better, or I'm doing better recovery practices now than I ever have done, because I'm not working 9 to 5. I get to work as I choose, I get to sleep, I get to eat when I want. My stress levels are generally much lower. But there has been, for me, it's just a massive relief to know that there is a reason why I've been getting so tired and I've been unable to I've had, like, I think 2 years ago I would miss, or I wouldn't hit, like, one training session per cycle, as in like per race cycle. There would be one training session that was just like a little bit too much and we wouldn't be able to do it because the fatigue was too high. Last year it was probably one a month. And then the beginning of this year I was missing a session every 2 weeks because I just couldn't complete it. So I was starting and unable to finish, which is absolutely absurd.
Yeah, and what it kind of feels like is, it almost feels like the perfect storm, really, in terms of you've clearly had a viral infection by the sounds of it, and it's... You're going to spit your water everywhere?
Everyone on YouTube just watched me dribble all over myself.
Okay, I was wondering what you're doing.
That's so fine.
So yeah, the perfect storm of sort of a viral infection. We don't know whether maybe you carried on training through it because you didn't have any symptoms potentially, but whatever it is clearly hit you fairly hard, whether you felt it or not, and had some repercussions.
Yeah, and I've had so many wonderful messages from so many people that also have it. So hello, there are lots of us. We're all going to be fine. And I say that with so much love, because I got this diagnosis. I was like, oh my God, there's never been an athlete in history that's ever had this. Like, what am I going to do? And then I find out that Katie Ledecky's got it and has had it for 10 years. And if you don't know, she is quite possibly the greatest swimmer of all time. And, you know, you would maybe argue Michael Phelps, but she is still racing. She is still the fastest in the world over her event, and she's absolutely incredible and has been for such a long period. She was winning when I was swimming, and that was decades ago. So it is possible.
And I think that's the difficulty, is so many athletes don't speak up about injuries. I mean, there might be the calf tears, things like that people talk about because they're quite not easy to fix, but they're not, as easy to... They're easier to rehab, shall we say, most of the time. And I don't know if people are scared because of maybe what sponsors think, what maybe other people think, what their competitors might think. But I think the more people speak about it, the more people can not feel as alienated or as alone in that space. And like I say, you've had a lot of lovely messages, and a lot of people have clearly been affected by this as well, who are now either carrying out normal lives, still competing in sport. There are always, you'd like to think, ways around it. So it's just sort of working that out, isn't it? And what is the new normal for you?
Exactly. So the like broader context of POTS is, it is a debilitating syndrome and it is a spectrum. So there are people that have it to the point that they are classified as disabled, because it has prevented them from living their lives. Their fatigue is so great that they can't make it through a day without kind of needing to nap. Their blood pressure, heart rate discrepancy on standing is so great that they will faint. I'm very fortunate that I don't faint. I get very lightheaded, but I don't faint. And so when you do your reading and when you kind of get given this diagnosis, you're like, okay, I'm an athlete. I'm very practical. I can be very rational. I want to figure out how I can best approach this. I need to gather all of the information out there so that I know how to tackle this and how to build this into my training. And I started doing the reading. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You know, the recommendations is to build up to 2 or 3 exercise sessions a week. I need to be doing that a day. How on earth am I supposed to kind of get back there? But obviously you kind of do a bit more reading, and I have this in a very minor capacity. It is enough to still impact me, and it will dramatically shift how we train and how I recover. But it's certainly not to the extent that people are suffering with it. But the management kind of approaches are still really similar. So for those of us who have POTS, it's recommended that we take on like 10,000 to 15,000 milligrams of salt a day. For a normal person, you normal people out there, 2,500. So that is like already an utterly enormous increase. And the thinking behind it is our nervous systems are constantly under stress. And that means that blood vessels can constrict and get smaller, and therefore the heart is working much harder to pump blood around the body, because everything's just like small, because body's in fight or flight. If you ply the body with sodium and water and fluids, and so you're just super hydrated all of the time, it opens the vessels back out again and then puts less strain on the heart. So I'm hoping that over time we will see a reduction in my heart rate, because I'm pretty sure that, like, taking max heart rate aside, each year my zone 2 aerobic heart rate is going up, which is bizarre. I'm getting older. Like, it kind of should be the opposite. So I'm almost expecting to see a reversal in that trend and for it to start dropping again.
Yeah, and like I say, with the sodium salt intake, that's not a prescription from Steph. If you are suffering, speak to a medical
please speak to a
professional.
medical professional. But this is just
this is just our learnings and what we
found from our research.
Might be right, might be wrong, but yeah, seek out medical advice from a professional first.
And in general, I've found that your body accepts things that it wants. So if you don't have POTS or don't have an autonomic nervous disorder and start trying to take on that amount of sodium, you're probably going to throw it back up again, and your body will reject it. Whereas I'm 2 weeks in and mine has not at all. And I mean, I'm drinking an enormous amount of water a day as well. I did a 3-hour ride today. Actually, no, yesterday was more extreme. We were out for like an hour and 15 minutes and I drank 2 litres. Outside. Like, inside, I think you can kind of...
Which is probably good, because in my head, you used to drink not enough.
No, I definitely didn't used to drink enough, which is probably why everything was getting worse, because I was just always slightly dehydrated. Whereas now we're kind of going completely the other direction, and it's really annoying, because you can imagine what happens when you drink that much water all of the time. Like, I just need to wee constantly. It doesn't stop. But I am noticing a difference, like, really quite quickly. So obviously as of Monday, I'm back in training. Monday we had as our off day, and at the moment, so for the 2 weeks after we got the diagnosis from POTS, it was 1 day on, 1 day off of physical activity. I'm now on 2 days on, 1 day off.
And when you say physical activity, it wasn't training as such, it was more just moving
for my mind's sake more than anything.
Whether that was a walk, a jog,
a swim,
bike, it was all very, very intentionally easy.
Yes. Yeah, it was, because at that point we didn't know what was going on, and the recommendation from both the respiratory and the cardio specialist was to do less than more. But I've done my 2 days on, and I'm about to have my day off, and I feel great, which is amazing, because I think back to like middle of May, I was genuinely unable. I mean, I was just unable. Like, we've had a busy day today. I mean, this is all context because it will help you understand the like journey that we've been on. So today, alarm went off at 6, which hasn't done for a while, and we went swimming. I went up to the lake, and then we came home, grabbed laptops, went into Bath because Matt had a dentist appointment, and we were in Bath for like 4 or 5 hours.
I will just say an emergency dentist appointment.
Emergency dentist. He did something really silly. We'll tell you about that in a minute. Emergency dentist appointment in town for like 5 hours, and then came back, and then I did a 3-hour ride, and I still feel great. Whereas kind of middle of May, coming back from I wasn't in a good way coming back from Texas, but coming back from Texas, I couldn't be out of the house for more than 2 hours at a time.
Yeah. And I think the thing we've got to be careful of is it's not what happens that day. It's the next day is when it's the knock-on effect. It's usually the next day you feel it.
Yes.
So hopefully tomorrow now, you're still feeling good. That's where we can see the problems. If you start feeling tired afterwards, that's kind of where we know.
Yeah, and so I'm wearing a glucose monitor at the moment, and it's been really interesting to be fair, I am fortunate that I haven't had any like glucose abnormalities that come with POTS, because some people do. Mine seems to be okay, except when I kind of overdo it, it becomes really volatile. So I never go into the ranges of hypo or hyperglycemic, but it just never quite settles. It will just ping up and ping back down again, regardless of whether I'm eating. Whereas thankfully the last like 2 and a bit weeks, it's been really stable. It was just at the start that it was a bit crazy. So yeah, I'm using that as like a monitor, and apparently measuring my heart rate sitting versus standing and actually checking in and being like, am I getting lightheaded, is a really good way to know if things are getting better or not. Because if it starts to get worse again, it means that I'm probably overdoing things and to step back. But then you've got to look at it in the context of like, why are things getting worse? Oh, it's currently over 30 degrees in the UK, and I have an increased intolerance to heat, so I'm going to have a really rough time of everything, and my heart rate's going to be increased, and I'm going to have to take on more fluid and more salts, and everything's going to just be a little bit harder than when the weather's cool. And yeah, I think it's hard. Honestly, it's really hard knowing that I've got a disorder that might not go away. And especially as someone that's always been so active and so used to having unlimited energy. Like I never used to slow down because I never used to need to. And I loved it. And I loved what that gave me. And I love my ability to take on everything that I was passionate about. And being faced with the fact that I can't necessarily do that anymore is slightly terrifying, and that I'm gonna have to manage my energy, and I can't necessarily say yes to all the things I want to say yes to, because it's going to mean that I'm not going to be able to do anything, which is like, yeah, it's quite a daunting thing to think that how drastically things might have to change, like away from training, just how I go about my life. But I just have to prioritize things that give me energy and that I enjoy doing. And, you know, that's, yeah, I think that's kind of all I can do, and learning where my limits are. Can't really do any more than that. So yeah, it's good. This is probably the best outcome that we could have asked for, because there is an explanation for everything that's been going on. But it's going to be different. It's going to have to be different. And we're still figuring out. I think we managed to, this is going to sound really weird. We've almost managed to buy ourselves time with a myocarditis diagnosis, because this rebuild is going to help me find my baseline for what I can tolerate training wise.
Yeah, and you've also had to rest, which I think is always, if in doubt, rest will always do you better.
Yes.
So hopefully has helped.
Yeah, I'm sure it has.
And recharge the batteries a little bit.
And one of the best things is that swimming is supposed to be excellent for people with POTS, because...
So 50k swim weeks incoming.
Yeah, I'm literally going to be in the pool all the time. Because it's postural, so it changes based on your posture, quite literally. And lying is the best posture, and swimming is exercising lying down in a body of water. And I've had so many messages from people. So this isn't just... I've done some research and then it's anecdotal as well, but people just say swimming is for them. Swimming is better than doing nothing. And these are athletes saying it. So they're people that are physically fit and used to being active, and that like rest. Honestly, rest for us is quite often not an option because it does make you feel not great as an athletic population. Like it's not a thing that we're used to doing, so therefore our body tends to not like it. And they've said that swimming helps more than resting, which is good, but obviously you need to balance that because you actually do need to rest to make sure that your body is repairing itself. But then how much is it repairing if it's under stress because your POT symptoms are bad? So we've got a lot to figure out. We've got a lot to work through.
Still work in progress. But that is our understanding of what's going on currently.
And then ILO fits into that because basically as both of the, like as the virus that gave me POTS developed, it also attacked the respiratory center of my brain, and it's just kind of like Matt said, it's a perfect storm of stuff that's happened. But fixing the ILO, working through the ILO, working on the breathing will help with POTS because it will settle my nervous system.
Yeah, and I think we ran through a lot of ILO last week, didn't we?
Yes.
So we don't need to go into too much detail on that. Apart from, like I say, working with some excellent people on this. Yeah.
We did have a question on ILO though.
Yeah.
So someone asked, how do you know if you're breathing properly?
I still don't.
Yeah, still don't. Good question. So this is, and I know we have some amazing people that listen to this podcast that are probably going to roll their eyes and laugh. This is my understanding, and this is from someone who is not as Matt very frequently tells me, is not a breathing expert.
But I'm glad you can explain it better than me, so go for it.
So how I've learned is if you stand in a mirror.
In a mirror?
No, you're looking in the mirror. You're not in the mirror. You're looking in the mirror.
I have a mirror in front of me.
And it's probably easiest to do it like topless so that you've got full view of your rib cage.
I won't do that.
You want to be able to see like your torso. If you take a deep breath in, or just a breath in, actually, stand and watch yourself breathe for, 30 seconds and notice. See what's going on. If your shoulders or your upper rib cage around your chest area moves, you are certainly at rest. You are breathing more into your upper lung than you are your lower lung, which is your diaphragm. If your stomach moves, you are using, like you're drawing the air down into the lower part of your lung, which is your diaphragm. At rest, we should be breathing with our diaphragm. Almost almost just your diaphragm, nothing else.
I was just looking in the mirror at myself now, and I was watching my chest.
He's watching his chest go up and down. So when we take a big deep breath, always we'll go, open up the shoulders and breathe in. But what you should be doing is breathing it down and low. So you can, to see if you are breathing properly, my way of a very visual cue is, am I moving my shoulders or am I moving my stomach? And if my stomach is moving and my shoulders are not, I'm breathing with my diaphragm. And if my shoulders are moving and my stomach is not moving quite so much, I'm breathing too high. And the blood is quite frankly not getting to the oxygen's not getting to my blood. So therefore pointless. And as you develop, you'll probably find that your breathing slows because you don't need as much because you're getting the right amount of oxygen.
And the understanding is that the more we can practice that at rest and at lower intensity, we can then move that towards the higher intensity.
Yeah.
And kind of become a habit, really, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. So realistically, anything at aerobic, you should be able to breathe through your nose. And if you're breathing through your nose, it's much easier to draw the air lower because I'm doing it now, it's really weird. When you use your mouth, your neck tenses and your neck muscles, please don't ask me which ones because I don't know.
Yeah, what's it
your
called?
Neck muscles pull up your chest and pull up your rib cage. So it's almost encouraging it to be a high breath. Whereas if you choose to breathe through your mouth, you need to actively think about drawing it low, or certainly I do. Whereas you breathe through your nose, you can't, your nose doesn't have the muscles connected to your shoulders and your upper rib cage, so it can't lift it, if that makes sense. So it does just draw the air low, and we're supposed to breathe through our nose. It creates it, as Matt found out, your nostril hairs moisturize the air, so it hits your lungs at the correct temperature for oxygen to be absorbed into the blood, and it just the way that it's built means that we're getting the right amount of oxygen into our lungs, rather than our mouths will overbreathe and take in too much, which makes us really inefficient, and quite often we breathe too high.
Yeah, and you've done a lot of work with this. It's not just a quick fix, but you've put a lot of time and effort into this.
I have been thinking about every single breath that I've taken for the last 3 weeks, and I love it. It's given me so much purpose, which is great, and I'm seeing such a difference.
So watch this space.
Yeah, I will be an expert breather, and I'd like a badge. Maybe put it on a t-shirt. Expert breather. Please give me something. If I can't get any race t-shirts, I need an expert breather t-shirt.
So that's us now. I say us, that's you anyway. For the short term, like I say, hopefully things, I'm sure, like any recovery period, there'll be ups and downs.
Yeah.
But hopefully we're, fingers crossed, through the worst, and we can start slowly but surely getting back into a good spot.
Yeah. And TBC, what that looks like with racing. I certainly won't be racing in July. Maybe towards the end of August, maybe September, but Kona's still kind of what I've got my sights set on, and the whole team's agreed with that, which is excellent. So we're not done for the season, as long as I manage this build sensibly and with all the self-control I can muster.
Yeah, so no...
Easier said than done.
No sprinting up the stairs or...
No.
Racing Matt.
No racing Matt.
Although that probably would be quite a good, easy race currently.
I don't think so. You were dropping me on the ride yesterday.
Okay.
He actually dropped me on... What day was it? Sunday. It's really hard riding as easy as I need to ride. And Matt dropped me. And then he told me off for not trying hard enough.
Probably the first time in a long time.
Yeah. I was thrilled. Absolutely
Usually
thrilled.
I just get Steph turning around and tutting at me as she drops me.
Which is also not true. I definitely don't do that. I quite often don't turn around, and I just decide if he's gone, he's gone. Every man for himself.
He can fend for himself. Sounds about right. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at with that. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed. Like I say, we've had lots of messages. Great. We can't diagnose anything.
Yeah, please, if you've got any questions about yourself and your symptom, please go and see a doctor or a medical professional. Especially if you're an athlete, go and find a sports specialist. But I cannot diagnose you. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Sorry.
There are some really fabulous people in these positions for a reason.
Yeah, that have spent dedicated their lives to understanding these conditions in athletes. Go and speak to them.
So yeah, now on to some racing.
Yeah, we can talk about some racing. There's some good racing.
We had Frankfurt this weekend.
Yeah.
Gone, which was the male European Championship.
Yes.
Obviously, stellar fields, lots of drama with penalties. We don't need to go into all of that too much. But some good racing.
It was
really
great.
Good racing.
It was great.
A bit of a Scandinavian dominance, really.
Yeah, so we saw Christian sprint himself to win.
Yeah, but not most importantly, what was really good to see was Christian Hogenhagen second.
Yes, I mean, it's fan favourite. We are fan favourites of Christian Hogenhag.
Yeah.
He's just just so fabulous and wonderful, and has had a really tough time. So just to see him absolutely, and he smashed it earlier in May, and he's absolutely smashed it again, and put together such a brilliant race.
And he couldn't meet a nicer bloke.
No, he really couldn't. So we're absolutely thrilled. And obviously we're big Norwegian fans after spending time with them in Texas. So, it's nice that they got on the podium too. KB won, Casper Storner's third, and then Gustav in fourth, which is really cool.
Yeah, really good to see them all back.
So it was, I think it was a feel-good podium, I think.
Yeah, considering the field, and like I said, there's still I don't think Patrick's quite 100% yet.
No, but he
but
will
he
be.
still wasn't far off the pace, to be honest.
I think actually, given how he looked, he's even more dangerous in Nice
Yes.
now. Like he was actually excellent. Therefore, like the gap, because he had a really tough Frankfurt last year, and then obviously wins Kona a couple of months later. So you're like, actually, he was better this year now, despite the fact that he's not been able to put together the run training and the run build that he would have wanted because of the injury from April. Just imagine. So Nice is going to be excellent. I'm very excited to watch.
Yeah. The only thing with Nice is it's slightly earlier than Kona, but
yeah,
I'm hoping he'll be able to turn it around.
Oh, he will.
If anybody can, it's
him.
three-time
Yeah,
world
exactly.
champion.
He's won it enough times. He knows how to do it.
So yeah, that was Frankfurt. This weekend we've got Roth coming up.
Yeah.
Challenge Roth.
Matt's favourite race.
Another big race. Yeah, I would say my favourite race, actually.
You did it last year.
I did. Although I'm glad I'm not doing it this year because it looks quite warm. Non-wetsuit as well.
Non-wetsuit swim, and it's very rarely non-wetsuit, so
And
I think there'll be a lot of unprepared people.
I don't even own a swim skin, and I'm certainly not squeezing into Steph's swim skin. So
I could barely squeeze into mine.
So I would have been stuffed if I'd raced this year. I mean, I would have just swum it in my tri-suit, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it would have slowed me down that much more.
No, it'd be fine.
So yeah, exciting. It's, like I say, another stellar field, both across the male and female.
How quick is Laura Phillip going to go?
If it's non-wetsuit, I don't think
the
sub
such a
8
good point.
will be there.
Yeah.
And if it's hot, I don't know if she'll have, I mean, she might have the motors on the bike, maybe, but I don't know if she'll have the bike power. Because I'd imagine the quickest people in the field currently will be her and maybe Nikki Bartlett, but they're both going to not come from behind. Laura will be towards the front, but Nikki will probably come from further back and run her way through, I'd imagine, is how she usually seems to race. Another one, Alana Siffert, I think, could be a dark horse for this race.
Yeah.
We've seen Julie Derren, a few other training partners. Nina's done very well recently. Yeah. They've gone from not great form at the start of the year to
very good.
Very good. So maybe that's a trend across all of them. But yeah, very exciting field, and hopefully, I mean, a race we'll see you at one day. Because, like I say, having raced it myself, I did really thoroughly enjoy it, and I think
it just looks like a party for the whole time.
Yeah, and I think it's a course that would really suit you. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Why is that?
So it's got the bike course is fast, but it's not flat. It's rolling. There's a couple of hills, and you see the Solerberg, which is lined like the Tour de France kind of vibe. But they're not hills. Like, you'd fly over them very, very quickly. But they're enough to sort of be able to put a few watts down and sort of take a little bit of a gap. But also just ride the rollers, and I think you do that very well. And then the run course is pretty much all flat, apart from one hill about, I don't know what it is, roughly, let's just say 35k into it or something like that. It's pretty brutal.
I got so worried watching Matt on the tracker last year because he seemed to be moving fine. I was like, yeah, he's absolutely smashing it. And I think you were on for like a 3.5 hour marathon. I was like, this is it. Like, he's going to nail it. It's going to be so good. And then you stop moving. I mean, you don't stop moving, but you come very close to stopping. And I was like, oh God, he's blown. Like, oh no, this is horrendous. And when he came home, he was like, no, that was a hill. And the hill just ended me. That was it.
Yeah, I was in a really good rhythm. Along the canal, it's fantastic. It's dead flat. There's a slight sort of breeze because you're on the side of a canal. So it was quite nice. I quite enjoyed that. But then, yeah, that hill just came from nowhere. Didn't even know it was coming, to be honest. My own fault. And then there was a sort of a cobbly section, and that just sort of wrote me off, really. And then I just, when we've all been there, when you're running, or at least you think you're running, but you're essentially you could probably walk faster. And in day-to-day life, you could literally walk faster. But it's a bit of I don't know, you feel like you're running, but you're not. You'd be better off probably just power walking or something.
Matt always gets like this at the end of his Ironmans. Like, you look at him and he's running, but he's just not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think part of it, I think fueling's a huge thing. And I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 6'4" and I've raced around 100 kilos usually. And I think you, to race quite hard, I mean, I did 9 hours 41, 42 or something last year in Roth. For 9 to 10 hours of fueling your body at a decent intensity, you've got to keep shoveling a lot in the fire to keep
Yeah.
it going. And I think that's probably where I've just come a little bit unstuck. And I probably was taking under 100 grams carbohydrate an hour.
Yeah.
Probably needed to be quite a bit over that.
And it's quite funny because so when I race, and I mean I guess we know now, but like when I race, I will run and I'll run really well, and then I will have to walk because otherwise I'll faint. Like I have to not run. Whereas Matt will finish and he'll be like, I didn't walk a step, but I just couldn't move any quicker than I was moving.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched me, you'd probably say, yeah, he's walking. But in my head, I was running.
That's not true. It's definitely quicker than a walk, but it is it's also considerably it's slower than you train for.
Yeah, and I think it's weird. My logic, and this could be stupid. I know a lot of people walk the aid stations, and it's absolutely fine. But for me, I don't like to lose my rhythm.
Yeah.
And whether that rhythm is exactly the same, slower, faster, whatever. But I just like to just keep feeling like I'm running. I always think one foot in front of the other, I'm closer to the finish line. And if I start to walk, I feel like I'll just use it as an excuse and get in my head and just keep walking.
See, my approach is a bit different. I always say walk when you want to rather than when you need to. And I think in an Ironman, especially hot Ironmans, there is an element of self-preservation. And you see some of the top athletes walk through aid stations, but they're walking with purpose. So it actually won't slow them down a huge amount if you're then able to start running again. And if you're walking because you want to walk rather than because you need to walk, you'll be fine starting running again. Whereas if you leave the walking until you need to walk, it is so hard to start back up again.
Yeah.
Because your body's saying, absolutely not, we're going to walk this. We're done.
Yeah. But, yeah, Roth is one of those that I would definitely, I think, do again. Just because it is such an, I don't know, just a celebration of a day, really. I'm sure if you had a shocker, it would probably not feel quite the same. But just everything's set up well. Like, the venue's great. The people get behind it. Volunteers are fantastic, like they are in most events, but there just seems to be so many more, and it's a small, I don't know if it's a village, town, whatever you want to call it. It's not a city certainly, but everyone seems to get behind it, and the hype is kind of there. Cause
you did have an accident last year on the course, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I fell over on the finish line. I got so excited. So I think the Roth course, I know the Roth course is slightly short on the run, so it's, I don't know, couple of 100 meters or whatever it is. So in my head, I'd looked at my watch and I'd accounted for potentially a little bit more. So I kind of had a little bit in the tank. So I thought I'm gonna give a sprint finish here. How silly that was! I think it had rained, and the carpet was like a carpet laid on like those plastic sort of tile things.
So the Roth finish, you go into a stadium.
Yeah, and you do a loop. Basically.
And you do a loop. And
a square loop, though.
Yes, it's like three sides of a rectangle, really. And this was on the final corner.
Yeah.
And you can see it. I was watching the stream, and I was like, "Oh, there's Matt. What? Where's Matt gone?" And he sends it round this corner far too hard, and his legs just give way, and he just slides across the carpet and lands pretty heavily on the floor, and then you have to get back up again and shuffle your way. And in the meantime, you were overtaken by all the people that you sprinted past.
Yeah, I think that was part of it. I think I wanted to get a good finish line photo. I don't think I ever bought my finish line photos anyway, ever. But I wanted to. I must have seen someone ahead of me or behind me and just wanted to open up the gap, and I, in fact, did the opposite. But yeah, so just maybe slow your finish line down. Don't even sprint for it. I wasn't sprinting for a time, so
yeah, just don't stack it around the corners.
But yeah, Roth, if you can watch it, watch the. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be loads of things on Instagram of what's gone on through the day.
Yeah.
But
to challenge, stream on YouTube.
I feel like they do. I'm not sure with Roth though, because it's live on German television because it's just such a big
It's definitely
thing.
it's live. I watched it last year, so it's
Okay.
live somewhere.
But definitely worth a watch.
Yeah.
And if you ever get the chance to do it, yeah, 100% do it.
For sure.
It's kind of like a bucket list, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list. I wanted to do it last year, but it didn't happen. So it's definitely on my list to do.
And if you can't go to Kona because maybe, I don't know, you can't afford it, you're not good enough, any of the above, it's like a Kona but in Germany.
And cheaper to get to.
Yeah.
On the Kona piece, before we do our What the Buck, Ironman have literally just announced a new qualification pathway for Kona. We are not going to talk about that today because we both need a bit of time to dig in to what it actually means and what the reality of it might look like and get a bit of a balanced views of kind of all of the thinking that's gone into it, because we just don't know enough to talk about it right now. So give us a week. We'll talk about it next week, or maybe the week after. We'll do a bit on it next week. We'll talk about it next week. We want to do it justice because it's huge and, in my opinion, very, very exciting, but I need to dig into it a little bit more.
Maybe a bonus episode.
Maybe we do a bonus. Oh, God, that's committing to a lot. Especially so it's Henley Royal Regatta at the moment, and obviously this is like our previous life. Matt's going to Henley on Friday, and we're going to go back on Sunday for a barbecue. So I don't know why we're committing to doing anything extra in Henley Week.
Okay, maybe not.
Maybe not.
I'll take that back. Edit that one out, Steph.
Yeah, get rid of that. Maybe we try Monday. We'll see.
Yeah.
No commitments. Maybe it'll be a bonus episode. If not, it will be as part of next week's normal. Okay, can we do the What the Buck?
Go.
So, this was submitted as an athlete who has just done something amazing. Obviously, we talk a lot about triathlons and Ironmans and Challenge Roth and T100 and all sorts. There is an event called Long Course Weekend that exists, and quite frankly, it sounds so much more horrendous than doing an Ironman because it's split over 3 days. So you do the Ironman distance, and the original Long Course Weekend was in Tenby in Wales, in the location of Ironman Wales. On Friday evening, you do 3.8k swim.
It still is in Tenby, right?
It is, sorry, Long Course Weekend, this one that we are talking about is still in Tenby. There are like 6 others as well. So they've kind of franchised and branched out. This one in particular is the Ironman Wales course. So it's 3.8k swim on the Friday, 180k bike on the Saturday. It's not exactly the Ironman Wales course, but it's pretty close. And then the Sunday is the marathon. So in my mind, the beauty of doing an Ironman is you get to do it all and you realise how much it hurts while you're doing it, but then as soon as you finish, you finish. With this one, I think the swim would be fine. You do the bike and then you go to bed, and then you wake up the next day tired from the bike and you've still got to run a marathon.
Yeah.
So you finished like 3 times before you actually finished, which is just horrendous. Jazz Stubbs has just finished Long Course Weekend, and she did it as preparation for Ironman Wales in September, and is so proud of herself, and quite rightly so, because we're so proud of you too.
And I actually think it's, like you said, I think it's probably harder doing it that way around, because you don't get the DOMs in one day. Like, I feel
you just get the fatigue. It's
like
just
I say,
tired.
the swim to bike is probably the nicer way to do it, but then the bike to run, you wake up after 180k of a hard bike, you're feeling a bit sore.
And also on an Ironman, it's like one early morning.
Yes.
Whereas this time, like, you do the swim on the Friday night, you're probably buzzing going to bed, so you probably don't sleep that well. You then wake up on the Saturday early to do the 180k, have another bad night's sleep that night, to then wake up and do a really hilly marathon on the Sunday. Like, full kudos to everyone who does it. And there are people that do it year in and year out, and I think you are absolutely amazing. Again, it's like, so Ironman Wales is a bucket list race for me. Maybe we do the Long Course Weekend one day when I've retired, because it is iconic.
We've been there to watch. It's great.
Yeah, we've
great
been
day.
to watch Ironman Wales, and it's just... We also got Wales when it was 28 degrees, which was great for spectators, horrendous for the athletes.
Yeah. So, yeah, well done, Jazz. You're going to find Ironman Wales a walk in the park.
It's going to be a piece of cake, and the crowd support is just going to carry you through, because it always does. So, yeah, that is the What the Buck of the Week.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jazz.
I I think we're good. I think we're done.
Yeah, we've been yapping away for a long time now.
We have, and it's nearly bedtime.
So keep sending them in.
Send us your what the bucks.
We've got Swansea coming up in just 2 weeks.
Yep, Swansea 70.3, that is.
We'll be about. Drop us a message if you're around.
Yeah, for sure. Let us know. So we'll be there definitely Friday, Sunday, maybe Saturday.
Yeah, so, yeah, come over and say hello. Not to me, maybe to Steph.
Say hello to Matt too, please. Tell him that you recognise his voice. He'll be so excited.
Well, I'll have had a haircut by then, so I'll look like a different man.
Okay. Okay.
Right, let's wrap it there. So, yeah, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.